It's frustrating to be drawing a lot and noticing barely any improvement, especially because some people practice just as much, maybe even less, and make way more progress. Well, the good news is that it's not just luck of the draw. It's not really just your genetics at play here. You probably just don't know how to study properly, like most people. Like me, when I was younger. Since I started to teach art though, I got really interested in educational science. And so in this episode of YouTube Art School, I'll share with you what I learned to learn faster. Just one little thing that will impact everything that you'll learn from now on. So let's get this class started. All right, class is in session. Sit your cheeks down and pay attention. Without wasting any time, let me share with you the most important difference between someone who's going to make mad art gains in just about a year's time versus someone else who might not make anywhere near as much progress over a 10-year period. So what is it? Well, it's a distinction between practice and something called deliberate practice. Sounds similar, yes, yet it's everything but. In today's class, I'll quickly go over what makes practice deliberate and how that's different from regular practice, and well, how you can start practicing art deliberately too, with some important mistakes to avoid. I'm basing some of this on personal experience over many years, but also on multiple scientific studies referenced in a Harvard Business article that I'll link in the description of the video if you want to read it after this. If you don't want to spend your time reading through it though, I'll summarize everything here for you in just a couple of minutes. This stuff just works and you'll be much better equipped as an artist with that extra knowledge. That should just really be general knowledge, but for some reason it isn't. But I'm happy to share it with you as long as you pay the class fee of either one like or one sub. It's very affordable. It's great value too. Alright, so what's the difference between regular practice and deliberate practice? I'll start with a quote I really liked from the article where a violin coach was responding to a famous student, asking him how much he should practice, to be the best of the best. And the coach's answer was this: it really doesn't matter how long. If you practice with your fingers, no amount is enough. If you practice with your head, 2 hours is plenty. I felt this was a very good way to show the importance of deliberate practice, which in this case will be, the practice with your head, and to show its effectiveness and just how well known this is amongst experts. Regular practice is practicing what you already know. It's rehearsal in a way. It's like recalling something from memory. You're not really learning anything new in the process. It might be what you do in your sketchbook while drawing from imagination. It's practice that you can accomplish within a distracting environment, maybe amongst friends, or while half watching a TV show or a YouTube art school class. What? Deliberate practice though is different. This is going to be a little bit of a mouthful, but it requires considerable, specific, and sustained efforts to do something that you can't do well, or even at all. It's basically practice you do to eliminate your weaknesses. For example, doing anatomy studies to try to learn how to draw the human figure more accurately. Meanwhile, what I'm doing here in the background, well, it's just plain old regular practice. I'm not learning anything. I'm just having fun drawing from imagination, rehearsing what I already know. If all I did was this, I would never get better no matter how long I do it for. Although I might get a little faster. Deliberate practice though is what allows you to improve. It involves two kinds of learning, both improving the skill you already have, not just rehearsing them, and extending the reach and range of your skills. It also requires our full focus, and that's very demanding for the brain, and as a result, most people can't do more than 2 to 3 hours of it every day. If you're a very focused person, the science says that you might be able to do up to 4 hours a day, but that's generally the scientific limit to human focus. 4 hours, that's nothing. And any more than that, and well, the practice is no longer considered deliberate. You're actually capped out for the day until you get a good night's rest. So anyways, simply put, regular practice doesn't require much focus and doesn't translate to any significant improvement. Meanwhile, deliberate practice requires your complete focus and is what will lead you to grow a specific skill. And I would think that's good news, right? It means if you dedicate only 2 hours of deliberate practice each day on average, you'll nearly max out your potential growth as an artist and should technically improve as fast as humanly possible. 2 hours on average, that's something that most people can afford to do. So now you know what kind of practice actually works best, but how do you practice art deliberately? Well, there are 3 specific steps. Obviously, that's going to be slightly different for other skills. But if you're an artist and you've been just kind of half following so far, this is where you need your full focus. Don't let yourself down, and if you haven't been progressing as much as you want, this is going to change the game. So here we go. First, you'll want to learn the theory behind a subject that you're interested in. Let's take anatomy again, for example. You'll want to maybe educate yourself on certain muscle groups or body proportions, or learning the individual muscles of the leg, let's just say. Whatever art skill it is really that you're trying to expand, you'll want to learn the theory. Then in second, you'll want to draw those things that you've just studied using multiple different references. References that clearly show you what it's supposed to look like, so that you have a clear visual target to aim for. Use references and always compare your drawings back to them to make sure what you're drawing is as accurate as possible. And then in a third, finally, you need feedback. No practice is deliberate without feedback, unfortunately. And this is where an expert coach or teacher can really come in and help, not only to demonstrate what you're not doing well and how it should be corrected, but also to teach you how to give yourself feedback eventually. Now, obviously, not everybody has access to something like that. So maybe as an alternative, you could find somebody that's just technically much more advanced than you are, either on some forums somewhere or on some Discord servers that you're part of. And the only thing to keep in mind really is that just because somebody is more experienced doesn't mean they really know how to teach or know how to explain their thoughts. But that should certainly be better than nothing. Because either way, however you get it, feedback is required for your practice to be deliberate. Now, learning the theory, finding the right references, and getting that feedback is not as straightforward for everyone. Obviously, some artists can find all of those pieces on their own, but if you need help, I definitely recommend that you check out my complete art education program with the link in the video description. I have a ton of stuff for free here on YouTube, but if you want a solid structure that's often missing, assignments, and a community to accompany you on your art journey, the program happens to be on sale this month to celebrate its 7-year anniversary, and the price hasn't been this discounted in years. It's ideal for artists of all skill levels, including complete beginners. You can do it with Photoshop, Clip Studio Paint, Procreate, almost any painting software will do. So like I said, check the link down below for a lot more information on the program, and I couldn't recommend it more. You should join us. All right, plug over. Now, before I wrap up this class, let's quickly take a look at 3 important mistakes to avoid for your deliberate practice. One that comes back very often is the question of whether or not to study other artists you like, or, do master studies, for example. To go back to what I was just saying about learning how to give yourself feedback, this is the kind of exercise that you would only really benefit from after you've learned a substantial amount of theory and practice for a long time. Like after you've built quite a bit of experience. Otherwise, honestly, and I'm sure many who went to traditional art schools will relate, you just have no idea really what you're looking for. As you do those master studies, there's just a hard limit to what you can observe when your knowledge is limited. Now, in comparison, the more experienced artists will be able to extract a lot more knowledge out of the same reference, the same master study. And that's going to be particularly important when the artist that you're studying, has a specific style that deviates quite a bit from what reality looks like. Of course, do it for fun all day if you want, that's good too. But what you'll get out of it in terms of knowledge will be fairly limited if you're not experienced enough. Instead, initially, it's way better to just learn off of real life references or photo references. Now, another mistake is to think that all practice must be deliberate. And that's certainly not the case. Art is also meant for expressing ourselves, so it's important to keep some time purely for fun. It's best to do both. I like to recommend doing some intense studies first for like 1 or 2 hours while your focus tank is full. Earlier in the day is best since we lose focus throughout the day. And then after the 1 or 2 hours of deliberate practice, just move on to regular practice, working on art that feels well within your comfort zone. Stuff that's not too challenging. Stuff that you enjoy most. Because deliberate practice can be pretty frustrating and leave like a sour taste often. So regular practice will help you end the day on a good note and typically associate a more positive feeling to art, which is super important for long-term motivation, as you know if you've seen the previous couple videos. And then finally, the last mistake is to not be subscribed to the channel and skipping YouTube art school classes. That's not so much a mistake, to be fair. as it is illegal. If you're still here though, I am proud of you. And as a reward, you can go ahead and grab my custom brush set for free in the video description if you haven't already. And if you got some value out of this, let your mates know. Let me know in the comments. Maybe share the video on social media. Help me help more people learn art and find their passion.